Welcome everyone to this channel where I will be sharing episode reviews of that 1960s television show that I enjoy so much, Lost in Space. I encourage you to like and subscribe so that you don't miss each new installment as I work my way through all 83 episodes of this wonderful series. Up next, Season 1, Episode 4, There Were Giants in the Earth. The crew of the Jupiter begins to settle into their new environment on this alien planet. They discover that life forms here experience uncommon growth, everything from vegetables planted in the native soil to giant beasts. The Robinsons also discover that the planet is getting cold so rapidly that the only option is to pack everyone into the chariot and head south in an effort to outrun the coming cold. They are destined to face a multitude of life-threatening challenges while on their journey. Smith, meanwhile, resolves to stay behind with the robot and wait out the cold in the Jupiter. I know it seems like I start every episode review by saying this is a great one, but that's a function of where we are in the series, still making our way through what is affectionately referred to as the first 5. The first 5 episodes parsed out of the original pilot that was used to sell the series to the studio. Each of these episodes are indeed among the very best of the series. With this installment, There Were Giants in the Earth, we have another fantastic episode on so many levels. For one thing, it introduces one of the most iconic monsters of the entire series, the Cyclops. Beyond that, though, this episode is truly action-packed. Will is attacked by the robot. Smith plants seeds in the alien soil and grows an immense pea pod with tentacles that nearly attacks him and the family. John and Don inspect their weather instruments and come to forecast the coming of a life-threatening drop in temperature. There's the discovery of giant footprints, a damaged weather station, mysterious noises in the night, the robot wandering off into the darkness, and his inability to accept the existence of what he has just seen. All of which leads to the discovery of the Cyclops. Don and John are trapped in a cave by the Cyclops. Will shoots the immense creature. The family packs up to seek refuge from the cold by heading south in the chariot. We get our first glimpse of the jetpack as John searches for Penny. There's a second run-in with a boulder-wielding Cyclops, a wild electrical storm threatening the family which prompts them to seek refuge in a cave. There they discover an ancient city. There are mummies, earthquakes, and ultimately some of our colonists get sealed in a secret tomb. All of this is packed into just 51 minutes. Pretty exciting stuff, lots of it, and I have not even touched on Smith and all that he brings to the story. This episode begins with resolving one of the series' most thrilling cliffhangers, the robot preparing to, as Smith described his orders to the robot during the last episode, eliminate non-essential personnel who are found alone. In this case, Will, who is out on his own trying to make a repair to the chariot's electrical system. I love all the pieces that are connected to this. First, we have John threatening Smith back at the ship. Next, it's exciting to see how Will has disarmed the robot by interrupting his programming to eliminate personnel by having the robot accept a programming check, as Will then talks the robot through a game of chess. Another cool moment is when John and Maureen arrive on the scene. Maureen's maternal instinct takes hold and she lunges forward. I enjoy seeing the robot react, turning a bit to her in some way, recognizing her as a threat, and how that may undo Will's efforts to disarm the robot. It is a dangerous moment. Amidst this tension at the chariot with the robot, I very much enjoy the exchange we have between Don and Smith back at the ship. Don threatens Smith, and Smith has an amusing retort. I can't help but smile and find the humor in Smith's surrender by offering his sword, which in this case is a soup ladle. This scene is a good example of a couple of things. For one, we see some of Smith's humor start to emerge, but also, at this early stage in the series, Smith continues to come across as quite smart, cultured, and sophisticated. I enjoy watching Smith at first stand up to Don, threatening him while armed with a soup ladle, and then surrendering. As he and Don turn to leave, we see concern wash across Smith's face as he begins to recognize the real threat of violence at Don's hands.
Get outside and stop that tin monster, or I'll wring your neck.
Threaten violence, will you? Stand back, sir, or I'll drum on your noggin until it rings like the Canterbury chimes. I surrender.
All right. Now get out and make the robot start.
But of course, my dear fellow, of course.
One false move. And...
Once Smith arrives on the scene to disarm the robot, I love how the always manipulative Smith tries to ingratiate himself with John and Maureen, but Maureen is having none of it. All of this is a great resolution to last episode's cliffhanger. Clearly, the characters that we see here during this and other early episodes are vastly different than those portrayed later in the series. During that scene with the robot, I can appreciate the urgency and alarm expressed by John and Maureen for their son. In later episodes, there are times when Will and Penny are missing, maybe held captive by some alien, and John and Maureen carry on as if their kids are just a little late coming home from playing at the neighbor's house. In this scene with Will and the robot, their concern comes across as much more appropriate and genuine. Throughout this episode, we also get to see Will as an uncommonly bright boy with an affinity for electronics, as well as John in his role as a scientist, as well as a commanding leader of the expedition. We must enjoy these elements now as well because they also begin to disappear by the middle of the second season. Smith, meanwhile, is already beginning to exhibit his signature laziness, as we will see in a moment. It's amusing to see him manage to avoid working on the force field, helping with the hydroponic garden, or even giving help to Will on his project. Maureen catches him enjoying a cup of coffee, and it's amusing to hear Smith claim credit for all of the tasks in which he did not actually participate. Smith's laziness becomes a constant across the rest of the series, but this is the first real exhibit of that. Also, some small bits of well-placed comedy from Smith have already begun to emerge, such as the soup ladle incident and his false boasting to Maureen. He remains, however, at least for a bit longer, very much evil and quite a believable danger to the Robinsons. One of the things I enjoy most about these early episodes is all of the pioneering elements that are still featured. John gives a bit of a pep talk, making it clear that everyone, including Smith, will have jobs to do. During John's talk, Will, who already has a fascination with and growing affection for the robot, asks about him. After all, as Will describes it, he's a member of the party and shouldn't the robot be activated so that he can help too? To Will's great frustration, John wisely insists that the robot will remain without power. So the next morning, we have the Robinsons beginning to set up camp, establishing the hydroponic garden, assembling and testing the force field, though there is no explaining why Don would do so by aiming a laser pistol directly at the family. We have Will repairing some equipment, and even Maureen is doing laundry. It is fun to see this 1960s view of the gee-whiz appliances imagined for the future. During that scene with Maureen, we get another unique look at the Jupiter. If you look past her, to the center of the upper deck, you can see that the astrogator is in the raised position. It appears up in the outer bubble, and you can see the pole coming down to the astrogator's base. Again, a neat element that we really don't see after these first couple of episodes. Once again, we have Will trying to persuade John to reactivate the robot. John's response is both quick and stern, making it clear that the robot remains too unpredictable, indeed too dangerous to be reactivated. This leads to a quick scene between Will and Penny, one that any little 6-year-old boy can quickly identify with.
Didn't offer much of an argument, did you? You heard what he called me, didn't you? And Dad calls me William in that tone of voice. It's no use in arguing.
Later, the know-it-all Smith plants some seeds in the alien soil, and it grows into a giant pea pod. Smith, believing he just solved the family's food problems, opens the pod and out comes tentacles that reach for them all. Will grabs a laser and saves the day by killing the immense vegetable. That pea pod sets up a scene where we see John doing some work in the lab. He discovers that the soil contains a parasite that, once finding its host, can lead that host to grow to an immense size. This scene in the lab is fun for a couple of reasons. For one, it actually sounds like real science, reminding us that, at least at this stage in the series, Lost in Space truly is a science fiction show. But also, it foreshadows the coming of the giant Cyclops. That evening, the always precocious Will, believing he can correctly program the robot so that it's no longer a threat, goes out and reactivates him. A mysterious growl is heard off in the distance, and against Will's protests, the robot leaves camp to investigate. I love this scene for a couple of reasons. When John comes out to see what has happened, it's fun to hear him catch himself before completely blowing up on his young
The
son.
robot did.
I thought I told you to stay away from the robot.
Yes, sir. But I thought if I could...
Don't you realize he might have turned on you again? Might have tried to destroy us all?
Yes, sir. But I thought if I could reprogram him...
Now, what do you know about reprogramming a complicated... Where is he now?
We heard a noise and the robot went after it. I'm sorry, Dad. I'll go get him if you want me to.
No. You go to bed.
Yes, sir.
I'll talk to you in the morning.
Good night, Dad.
Even better is a touching scene the following day, when John is able to address Will as the calmer, more rational, and loving dad.
I want to talk to you about last night.
I thought sure he'd be back by now.
Well, you happen to be a very bright and very talented boy, all right? Now, look at me. But you're still a boy. And there are some things that even the brightest, most talented boys should leave to older hands. Now, with a little patience and a little time, we could have reprogrammed that robot to do its job. But because you acted without thought or permission, we lost a piece of valuable equipment that we needed very badly. And that's all I'm going to say to you about the robot.
Later that day, we have the robot returning to camp clearly malfunctioning. It seems that whatever he saw out in the night was, as Don said, too much for his programming. This is yet another foreshadowing of the Cyclops. Later, Don and John take to the chariot and climb to the top of a mountain to check their weather instruments and discover that the temperature is dropping rapidly. John is determined that the family pack up in a chariot and head south as quickly as possible to outrun the cold. Don wants to check an additional instrument, and it is here that they first discover the footprints and then ultimately the Cyclops himself. As an alien monster, the Cyclops is incredible. The costume is fantastic, the sound of his growl and chortling is terrific, and the way he's filmed and how that footage is then blended with the other action is done so well. Even the way the Cyclops' one eye moves adds to the believability of this monster. Don and John seek refuge from the huge beast in a cave, but the Cyclops continues to reach for them, at one point ripping up a tree and attempting to crush them with it. Back at the ship, Will gets the radio telescope working, and with it, the family now discovers the danger John and Don are in. Will grabs a laser pistol and runs off. As he climbs the mountain, I enjoy that moment Will gets his first look at the beast with his own eyes. You can really get a sense of the awesome fear that he is experiencing as he steadies his laser, fires, and the Cyclops drops to the ground. The action of these scenes is fantastic. How can any little boy watching this on TV back in the 60s not delight in seeing Will save the day by shooting the Cyclops? And I have to love his exuberance at having done it. Just as much fun is the following scene. John in his dual roles, that as the chastising mission leader while also being the loving father in equal measures. It all makes for a truly warm scene.
Will? What are you doing here?
I saw you in trouble over the scope,
So you thought you'd come and save us. And you did save us. Now, I want you to promise me something, on your word of honor.
Yes, sir?
When I tell you to stay and protect the family, don't you ever leave your post again, understand? If we're going to survive in this place, we must follow orders. And that goes for all of us. There may be other giants around. Here. Put this on. There you go. Not as big as you thought you were, huh? All right, let's move.
Once back at the ship, John and Don announce their plans to head south. Smith is determined to button up in the ship and wait out the cold. To quote Don,
It's your funeral, Smith.
Just leave me a few necessities. I feel confident that I shall survive.
this short scene is another exhibit of classic Smith. He is full of bravado as he expresses his determination to stay. As soon as Don and John turn away, however, you quickly see the very real worry wash across Smith's face.
You'll come back, never fear. And you'll find me here, snug as can be, you'll see.
The Robinsons' journey south has some drama before it even begins, as Penny has wandered off and John uses a jetpack to go find her. These jetpack scenes look great. We're not seeing some stuntman hanging from wires. This is a real pilot in a real 1960s jetpack. The jetpack had very limited fuel, so the pilot could only fly it for a few minutes at a time, but it really does sell these scenes. I also enjoy the drama as Don struggles with the decision, as ordered by John, to leave at a predetermined time whether he returns or not, owing to the life and death urgency to have the rest of the family begin their efforts to outrun the cold. Maureen's relieved expressions when John emerges just in time remind us that this cast indeed included some truly talented actors and actresses. As the family heads south, there's another confrontation with the Cyclops, now throwing boulders down upon the chariot. It is, of course, one of the most iconic moments of the entire series, ultimately memorialized by Aurora when they produced a plastic model kit back in the 60s, essentially capturing this scene. Once Don blasts this Cyclops, it's an equally dramatic moment as the chariot slowly rolls past its carcass. As a kid, I would always get a little creeped out when they paused to look into the dead creature's eye. After a day-long journey in the chariot, the Robinson party stops and makes camp for the night. I have to say that it's easy to love this camping scene, once again, not for one, but for many reasons. I enjoy Will singing and playing the guitar, smiling all the while. That is him actually playing on his own guitar that he would keep on the set as something to enjoy during free time. Having him play it now adds meaningfully to this scene. Then we have Judy and Don enjoying a moment together, followed by Penny ratting them out to John and Maureen. I love Maureen's explanation to Penny nearly as much as I enjoy John's amused expression while he looks on. These feel like genuine moments that ultimately build the sense of family connectedness that is such an important element in making this show what it is. As the Robinsons continue their journey south the following day, they are caught in a wild, life-threatening electrical storm, leading our colonists to take refuge in a cave. Here, inside that cave, they find remnants of an ancient city. Between the darkness, all of the cobwebs, the mysteriousness of the space, which is enhanced by the equally eerie music, these scenes are quite creepy. Eventually, Debbie the Bloop wanders off, Penny goes off to find her, and then Will goes off to find Penny. At some point, Will discovers some wall paintings. You only barely see it, and only for a second, but it is very intriguing that one of those images depicts a Cyclops, which helps to tie these lost city scenes back to the rest of the episode. While exploring those paintings, a wall opens up and Will falls into a hidden chamber. Penny follows, and the wall closes, trapping them inside. As a young boy, I remember being startled as their light flashes across a mummy. Don and Judy come looking for Will and Penny, and they also find themselves ultimately trapped inside this tomb. After an earthquake, it falls to John to save everyone. He pulls out his laser pistol and tries to cut through the stone with it. And this is what takes us to this episode's cliffhanger. Before I wrap up this episode review, let me share a couple of thoughts that are more broadly about the series. We all know that the show went through some dramatic changes over its 83 episodes. And not just the show, the characters changed significantly as well. Having watched this series many times, I find it interesting to note where those changes begin and how they play out over many episodes. By Season 2, Lost in Space had kind of established its formula for the balance of the series, that episodes would largely be built around three characters, Smith, Will, and the robot. Before that could happen, though, those three characters must establish what it is that their relationship would ultimately become. For me, I find it interesting to see how those relationships do gradually evolve. When it comes to one pairing, Will and the robot, as a whiz kid with electronics, Will already has a deep affection for the robot right from the very beginning. This early in the series, however, the robot remains very robotic and cannot yet reciprocate. We see a bit of both of that when Will is preparing to board the chariot and head south. Only Will wants to take the time to say goodbye to the robot. To Will's great frustration, the robot responds unemotionally.
Goodbye, goodbye, a sentimental phrase to indicate the separation or parting of emotional beings.
Never mind that. It means I won't be seeing you for a while.
Derived from an early English expression.
That's enough. And the least you can do is try to show a little decent sentiment. We won't be together anymore.
That does not compute.
Oh. Maybe that...
And then we have the all-important Smith-Will relationship. That really hasn't begun at all yet. During these early episodes, Will is very mistrustful of Smith, if not even a bit hostile. We see some of that play out during the scene just after Will blasts the oversized pea pod with his laser.
Good lad. Excellent shooting, my boy, excellent. I'll take over now.
What were you doing when my mother and sisters needed you?
I was about to run for a weapon, of course. Prepared to sell my life dearly in mortal combat to defend your relatives.
I'll bet you were.
There, now, that's enough of that, Will.
It is interesting to watch this Smith-Will relationship grow over time, especially as that evolution is not a straight line. As I work my way through these episode reviews, I'll make it a point to highlight those key moments in the growth of this important relationship for the show. Jumping back for a moment to the scene with Will saying goodbye to the robot. For those unfamiliar, let me describe a bit about how the robot was managed on the set. Bob May was the performer inside the robot. Bob would recite the robot's lines, syncing it to a press of a small button inside the robot's left claw. Later, the announcer of the show, Dick Tufeld, would dub in the robot's dialogue, timing it to the cadence of how Bob stated those lines. I bring this up because during this scene, you can see the robot's left claw jiggling as Bob would press the button from inside the suit. This will be apparent all throughout the series, but it is a bit more obvious here. Like all of the first 5, There Were Giants in the Earth is a wonderful episode and really doesn't have meaningful misses or negatives. There are, however, a few minor things that I wish were handled a bit differently. As much as the Cyclops scenes are immensely cool, and the effects are fantastic, the one scene of the Cyclops reaching for them inside the cave is not especially convincing. The claw doesn't look anything like the claws that we see on the Cyclops. More so, the claw that we see reaching is clearly a left, but in the wide shots, we see the Cyclops reaching in with his right. Also, while there is great drama around John searching for Penny and trying to get back in time, it's hard to believe that Penny allowed herself to be carried away on the back of a very slow-moving beast and never thought to just step off. It is, after all, a turtle. Then we have temperatures that are clearly freezing when the men are off checking the weather station, but back at the ship, no one is wearing any cold weather clothing at all. Was it that much colder up on the mountain? Maybe, but these two scenes just feel a little incongruous. I'll also have to say that it seems wildly improbable that they think they can outrun the cold in a fairly slow-moving chariot, all the more so when stopping to camp for the night. There are also small bloopers here and there. For instance, when the robot first returns after having seen the Cyclops, the little door under his chest plate is open. By the time he turns around, even though no one has touched him, it is now closed. Things like this are completely meaningless, but catching them always makes me smile a bit. Finally, I'm not really a fan of the Lost City portion of this episode. In fairness, the Lost City is actually pretty cool. It's fun and interesting and long on atmosphere. My problem is that it just seems like an appendage to the Giants episode. The Lost City part of the story doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't contribute anything to the bigger story. Not the Cyclops, not even escaping the freezing cold. They discover this lost city, walk around a bit, get trapped, get out, and leave. Possibly this element could have been expanded into its own episode, but as it is, it just seems kind of tacked on to an already good but completely different story. So while I have rattled off a few misses, all are very minor and probably wouldn't even be noticed by the casual viewer. All of those minuses are completely overwhelmed by all the fun this episode offers up. With that, let me give the last word to Maureen.
Dad, bet you don't know what I saw.
What?
Judy and Don. He was kissing her on the hand like this. Bet he picked up a million germs.
Well, Penny, dear, young people sometimes have ways of doing things which, to wiser heads such as you and I, may seem a little strange.
In other words, I should mind my own business?
That's right.
I thought so.
Yet another episode with a tremendous amount of action and adventure packed into just 51 minutes. Add in the warm and genuine family moments like the camping scene or John's interactions with Will, and it's easy to love this episode. For me, There Were Giants in the Earth is another A+ episode. It's my third favorite episode of the season, and third for the series as well. If you would like to see the full series, at the time of this recording, it presently airs for free on MeTV. You will also find the full series streaming on Hulu for a modest monthly subscription. That said, you can still find the series on DVD. Better still, pick up Lost in Space on Blu-ray. On that set, the image quality has been sharpened, and there is some excellent bonus material, including commentary by some of the cast. Like I said, I'm a fan, and for me at least, the Blu-ray is a must-have. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on There Were Giants in the Earth. One of the things I enjoy most about sharing reviews like this is how different fans perceive each episode quite differently, and I invite you to leave your own perspectives below in the comments. Most of all, I hope you will come back and join me when I review our next episode, The Hungry Sea, yet another great one and the last of the first 5 episodes. Once again, I recommend subscribing so that you don't miss a single new installment of this video series. Thanks for watching.